Hi, Buck. As always, it's good to get together for our weekly chat. How are you doing today?
Very good, very good. How about you?
Good, very good. This week, I think you proposed a nice discussion point that we can talk about. Would you like to share that?
Sure, absolutely. Because that is something that both of us are working on for last, month or so with two or three of our portfolio entrepreneurs. So I think it's something that we should share with everyone. And that is, as an entrepreneur, as a startup founder, how do you find opportunities with big vendors, like the AWSs and IBMs of the world? Because it's not that you just need a customer. Sometimes you know uh, piggybacking the right kind of big vendor can make all the difference to your own survival and success. So that's what I thought. We should share some thoughts and our experiences of last couple of months.
Yeah. Buck, I think that's a very timely thought because, sometimes a fintech feels that through collaborating or partnering with a larger company, that they feel that there's a disconnect. Some may feel that how can they ever get on the radar of a larger company? But it's really interesting working on both sides, working in fintechs as well as banks. I'm continued to be surprised and amazed that a number of bank opportunities are necessarily won by fintechs, right? So fintechs are having a very strong inroad into the banking financial services sector. And as the more that we see this fintech and bank alignment, it's helping us to see that fintechs are getting on the radar of large companies.
Mhm.
And so what are they doing in order to do that? I think is important for us to discuss. And what we are seeing in the industry with regards to fintechs and creating visibility, creating brand awareness to get on the radar, especially for banks, larger banks, I think is definitely a timely subject. When I would think about this subject 10, 20 years ago, I would say that it would be very hard to believe that a startup can align themselves with a large bank because we knew at that particular time that startup would have to have so much credentials and so much information that they would need to provide that company that they would not even be considered. But things have changed because as we know that a larger company needs to ingest that technology, they need to partner with companies that are going to stay active and ahead of the curve. And so therefore we see ripe opportunities with this fintech larger company alignment.
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, there are two or three things that I would definitely want to share today. Recently, we spoke about marketing for startups, the importance of marketing. So this is actually, you can say, a kind of continuation of that theme, but marketing to a different stakeholder, not just to a customer. Most of the time we are, in fact, the debates that we are having today, that you are a tiny little startup and you think Bank of America is your customer or Citibank is your customer. But how do you stand there? How do you stay there, through the 6 month, 8 month, 12-month cycle till you actually pick it up? And that is where I think it's important. And many entrepreneurs actually worry. So I would like to address that right at the beginning. That aligning with a large company doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to acquire you or they are going to eat you up. Because the things are very different today. Even the largest companies realize that the scene is so fast evolving. The functionality that keeps coming into the market, the new opportunities that keep coming are so fast evolving that in spite of their 50,000 strong developer team all over the world, they still cannot keep up. As a matter of fact, the backlog for big companies in terms of product development is actually much bigger than backlog for small companies because there are so many more things on their plate anyway, right? So the first thing to understand is who are those big companies that will find your work relevant? That's the first question, right? Is it going to be a cloud provider like an AWS or an Azure? Is it going to be a financial services technology specialist like Pfizer or those kind of folks? Is it going to be a generic technology provider like an IBM or a HP or those kind of folks? Or is it going to be those big outsourcers, the Accentures and the Infosys of the world? So first, carefully understand which of these people will be interested in what you are doing. And to be honest with you, I will say, Wayne, that if you find that none of these segments are likely to be interested in what you're doing, I will say go back to the drawing board and do something that these people will be interested in, because you have to take advantage of their volume and their power. For you to enter the market, you are not going to be able to do it on your own when there are thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs, trying to sell to the same 20, 30, 50 banks.
That's a very good point. One of the things that I've seen with regards to some clients and that entry point into banks is obviously through the innovation or the FinTech partnership initiative that many banks have, right? So they've designated roles and functions within the bank to reach out to the FinTech industry. And so that's a nice segue or an introduction that a FinTech can have within the bank. Now, once they're in that bank and there's opportunities in that bank, that FinTech and bank relationship, we have to really identify what that looks like. But there's an interesting point that you've mentioned, and I think it's a point that's really worth talking about, that with a larger company, even if there's an opportunity that's identified, whether through RFP or otherwise, that process of being onboarded by the bank could take a long time.
Yes.
And before that there is a revenue that could be generated from that organization, that also can take many months, if not years. And so that FinTech also has to be able to sustain their revenue, or they have to be able to be viable during that time. I remember working on one project with a FinTech. The contract piece alone, just the contract piece, was 6 months.
Pretty fast.
6 months.
Pretty fast, huh?
Can you imagine? and that did not even include the onboarding and the migration. So that can take months. Yeah. So it could be a focus could be partnering with a larger organization, but I think a FinTech has to also be very realistic that they have to sustain themselves and be viable while they're going through the compliance, the regulatory, the legal, and then the onboarding. They still have to keep the doors open. So there's still some effort that's going to have to be done associated with that.
Like you said, even after the contract is signed, it might be 12, 18 months before you see any money. And is a startup capable of sustaining this? That's the question, right? And let them look at a couple of things. In fact, it's not as hard as one thinks. But like I said, first of all, you have to identify who are those big guys for whom what you are doing is relevant. Once you see that, and I had the great fortune before in my earlier life, I was a partner to Cisco, I was a partner to Oracle, I was a partner to Microsoft. And when you are new in the game, you wonder that they got 30,000 partners. Why are they going to bother about me? But then when you develop relations, when you start talking to those people, their partner managers and even executives, you hear a completely opposite viewpoint. They are always saying that I don't have enough partners. So you are sitting on the outside thinking that there were 30,000 partners and there will be no room for me. And they are sitting inside and thinking that, oh, I don't have enough partners that I can depend on. So be confident, go into big companies where you have connections or make connections. Tell them what you're doing and you tell them, because one thing you remember, if you look at a Cisco or a CA or any big company, they are talking about a product portfolio of a couple of thousand products. So the person that you speak to may not necessarily be able to figure out where your product will fit into their scheme of things. You do that homework and tell it to them that, hey, you have got this great product line in the database side or in the bank payment side or wherever. And I look at your catalog, I look at your product lineup, I have known some customers who use your products, and I find that this is a small niche where my product can add value to your portfolio. You do that homework. Don't wait for them to figure out because they don't have time. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah. So Buck, I think that we've covered some high points, but if I was a FinTech or even a larger company, and this is an area that I'm interested in, what kind of advice can we give on both sides? I mean, obviously familiar from the GRC side, the compliance side that you have, and I know from the sales side, the background that I have, but how can we help someone in a very specific and tactical way that is looking thinking that that's going to be the ideal situation to partner with a larger company that's going to help them move and scale to a positive direction. What can we give them as far as very specific advice and pitfalls to avoid?
Absolutely. I'll give you 2 points right away. I mean, there are many more. But when you say tactically, one thing is technology. Many times, entrepreneurs' choice of technology, they create their own poison pill that nobody can work with them. They have got something from Microsoft, something from Google, something from Amazon, AWS, something from somebody else. So none of those vendors see a synergy between you and them. So if you have done your homework, you will know that you are going to align your technology in a reasonable way, not like 100% adoption or anything, to let us say Google or let us say Microsoft, whatever you like. They're all big enough for you to safely, and they're all providing good technology. It's not that you're going to compromise in the quality of your product because you use Google or Microsoft, anything like that, in at least 99% of the cases. So one thing is that, and the other thing is create a services layer to your capability. These are the two specific things I will talk about. One is align the technology thoughtfully, and big companies, even if they are services companies like Infosys or Accenture, they still need dependable service delivery partners. So if you go there with just a product, you will have a much longer selling cycle. But if you say, hey, along with this, because I'm adding this to your SAP portfolio, I can also do SAP. I've got experience in implementing SAP or reconfiguring SAP for supply chain management or something. And suddenly you are in front of a much larger audience. In fact, I'll share my experience when I would like to share that with all our members. Is that when I work with companies like Cisco or Microsoft as a partner, I got work from them in completely unrelated areas that I had not even had in my mind when I started talking to them. Because they always need resources, quality resources that they can depend on, and don't have a rigid outlook to begin with that I do this product and I'm not going to do anything else. Take something, get deeper into the relationship. Once you have a relationship, once you have the money, you are again free to decide what you would like to do and what you would not like to do.
Yeah, that's true.
But actually, you look at companies, big companies, and the way they are servicing their customers, they are doing. Do they ever say no? There are a whole lot of things that HP cannot do, or a whole lot of things that Cisco cannot do, or a whole lot of things that IBM cannot do. But do they tell no to a customer? No, because they know that the moment they say no, they are opening the door for a competitor. That is exactly how you should think, even if you are a startup with 5 people.
Yeah. It's very valuable, Buck. I think I want to share 2 points myself. Everybody, I guess if I was a FinTech founder and I look at the opportunity to align myself with a larger company, I think that would be very exciting. But I think being very realistic, that FinTech CEO has to look input to the company as well as outward. They have to make sure they're buttoned up. A larger company will share and have greater risk. There's greater exposure if something goes wrong. The need for compliance is going to be very powerful. And so that FinTech, that looking for that FinTech partnership, that FinTech is going to need to make sure that they really are buttoned up and that they have everything in place so that that relationship and partnership is going to be successful for both the FinTech as well as the larger company. I think that is where I see disconnects, and it's more so on the side of the FinTech, not necessarily being aware of building that infrastructure to support that larger scale company in an alliance or partnership, and going through the process with procurement and the onboarding and all of that, the legal framework, and all of that takes time. And I think the other side that I've also seen as far as some advice is just really to be realistic. Everybody wants to run and to manage and to own that unicorn, but those are few and far between. There's a lot of business with just growing in a very systematic level of one opportunity, multiple opportunities at a time, and really manage that growth strategically based on that plan, and that CEO has put into place and really execute against that. I have seen the lack of an operating plan. I've seen the lack of a marketing plan. I've seen companies that don't necessarily know strategically where they want to be today and 5 years from now or 3 years from now. And with that lack of organization, with that lack of vision, that lack of implementing a process, that's going to really be a recipe for failure. And even though that FinTech may be successful for a period of time, this is not a sprint, really. It's going to be it's a marathon of a long term. That's what you want to put in place. And that's what I really see lacking. And I think one of the things that we're going to continue to identify, through our webinars and those that we're going to invite to speak at our events, is to provide that type of specific experience, direction, advice, because at the end of the day, that we are part of an industry. We are looking and focusing and partnering with collaborators because we want to move this industry forward directly. We're stakeholders in the industry, right?
Yeah.
And we really see and have a passion for helping companies to move on a very positive trajectory and growth. And I think this kind of thinking about these few points that we're discussing this morning can really create and help companies to start thinking about what they need to do that's going to be relevant for them and push that and push that company in a positive direction.
Absolutely. Yep. That's what people need to think, because they can move much faster. They can piggyback and take advantage of the scale and the proven capabilities of the partner. You can't do everything yourself when you're a 2 people company, 5 people company.
That's true. That's very true. But this was really good conversation that we had today, and I'm really hoping that this information to our listeners will provide some focus and some direction. And we also look forward to our next opportunity to come back with a timely topic that's going to be relevant to our members.
Yeah, I mean, we could speak only a couple of points today, but there are many more that we can share. Absolutely.
Yeah. And one of the things also, Buck, is that we invite our listeners to send comments and topics that are relevant to them, that they're looking. And I think that's something that we're going to start thinking about and promoting over the next few months, that we want to hear from our members, our listeners, of topics that it's close to them, that we can use our experience and background in order to share.
Right now we are doing it informally. People speak to us on phone or email, but let us do it on the channel itself. Why not?
That's right. Good.
Excellent.
We look forward to the next time that we can actually chat again.
Sure. Thanks so much, Wayne. Have a great weekend.